All right, we are live and welcome in. I'm going to give this room just a little bit of time to populate. It would be a little bit before I think it actually connects to YouTube and getting everything really set up. There's the link right there, so I can pull that up and share out. So let me get some people to come in through both the Discord and through Facebook. And then we will get started with all of your questions. And so today I want to talk about the first off, the Shakuhachi giveaway and remind people of that. And then we will also do taking your questions about Shakuhachi in general and answering those, playing some stuff, and I think we'll just do. We'll see what it is. If there's just no people today, then there's just no people, and we don't do anything. And if there are people that have questions, then we'll continue going. I don't want to go over an hour today, but we'll see what happens, and we'll see where it all takes us. So let me just put the annoying @ everybody, and then hopefully we'll get some people in. So welcome in for anybody who's watching. I do see that we have a few people watching at the moment, just a few. That's totally fine. Even if one person has a question, I appreciate it, and I'm happy to take it and help out how I can. So first things first, and I'll probably mention this multiple times throughout the stream, so if you're hearing it now and then you're hearing it later, I apologize for the repetition. But we're giving away a Yozan Shakuhachi, one of his beginner flutes, as a part of the membership for the Renzo Studio, where we have a multitude of lessons and interviews and concerts and everything that's provided within the membership for YouTube. So if you're not familiar with YouTube memberships, it's a way to support the artist by making content. So what you do is you go to, actually if you look at this video and you look at my name at the bottom where it says Renzo Flutes, you're actually going to see a button there that says join. And so when you click on that button, it will give you a list of options there. And this is actually how you win the flute. So we can talk about this. So let's say you click on that button. It will pop up and you'll see a list of Shoden Trial, Shoden Lesson, Chuden Lesson, and Bamboo Champion. These are the different levels that grant you different access to the YouTube channel. So if you do the Shoden Trial, you'll get very basic material, just the first 20 or 30 videos that I made for the membership series. The Shoden Lesson series, you'll get access to an additional 60 lesson videos and also a free CD. Chuden series, you get all of that plus an additional 26 lessons regarding Chuden material, and then you'll get 20 lessons in regards to technique, advanced technique. And then the Bamboo Champion, you get access to everything prior to, and then you get access to all of the concerts that I do. So even concerts that I play out here where people pay money to go and see it, there's not a live stream for it, but I record every concert I do anyways, and then I upload it here so you're able to watch every single performance that I do, whether it be online or in person. And so with that, if you sign up for the Shoden Trial, you get one raffle ticket towards winning this flute. The Shoden Lesson series, you get 2. The Chuden level, you get 5. And then the Bamboo Champion, you get 10. And let's say you win the flute and you don't want it and you want to give it away to someone else, I encourage that wholeheartedly. So definitely go for that. So today's theme is anything you guys want to talk about in regards to Shakuhachi, any questions that you have. And with that, I'm going to be answering and giving all the examples on the flute that I'm giving away. So let's say you want to talk about Koro Koro a little bit. We can do that, and I'll show you it on the flute that we're giving away to really showcase that it is a very good flute. It's very well made, and it can do everything that we need in order to play the body of works for Shakuhachi, specifically within the Chikushinkai Dokyoku school, right? So where we play a lot of the Watazumi lineage pieces, ones that were taught by Yokoyama. Just a little bit about the flute, while people may or may not be thinking of questions, and just feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll answer them as the best of my ability. So this flute is a Kinko style flute. You can notice it right away by the Utaguchi insert. There are three different styles of Utaguchi inserts, and of course there are more, but the most common will be the one that you see here, which is the Kinko style. And the way to recognize it is that it looks like Mount Fuji. So the Kinko style was in Edo, which is modern day Tokyo, and it is closer to Mount Fuji, so you get Mount Fuji. The Tozan school is primarily in the Kansai region, which is Osaka, Nara, Kyoto, Kobe, and there we can call that the moon style, the crescent shape. So you'll get a crescent shape on the top of it. In addition to that, there is the Myoan school, which has a similar insert to the as the Tozan, but it will be less pointed at the end. It will have a little bit more of kind of like a thin, curved strip, we'll say. So they're just slightly different. The other thing about this is that it is a one piece. Like, even though it does have the binding in the middle here, it does not come apart. So this is just one stick of bamboo. You won't be able to take it apart. The professional model flutes from Yozan, they do split into two. What I tell my students, though, is that this middle joint here, really the way that you should view this is that this is emergency maintenance access. In general, keep this closed, because the more that you open and close, it wears down on this joint here. And then what ends up happening is you're going to start having air leakage. So, yeah. Okay. All right. So we have our first message here. Can we talk a little bit about komibuki, specifically the physical technique and perhaps the artistic intent of it? Yes, we can. So my good friend over at Hon-On Shakuhachi, Nick Belando, gave a little masterclass for us in our studio and talked a lot about komibuki. And one of the things I absolutely loved that he said is, like, how do you do komibuki? Well, you just have to figure it out. And so it's kind of manipulating the sound to get it. And there's definitely things that are not komibuki, and then there are things that are komibuki. When you look at the history of the playing style, specifically the old recordings of those Kimpu-ryu players, some people have a very wide variety of different types of komibuki and different speeds. So which tells us that there's not a specific tempo or a specific articulation that's necessarily required to obtain the standard of this is komibuki, but rather there is an overall feeling or idea, which from what I understand and what I've gathered is that it's from the hara, or from the solar plexus area and the general stomach, of tensing and to push out the air to get a kind of a forceful pulsed vibrato, if I'm to use Western terms. So you get something like and sometimes it can get so intense that it almost even sounds like tonguing, but it really is just a strong push of air against the notes. One thing that I end up kind of doing sometimes, which I believe is a flaw of the of my komibuki, is sometimes you'll get a like almost like a double or a triple take on it. I don't think it should fall. It should have that sound, but rather a clear pulse of bum 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 bum. Something like that. And a great way to practice komibuki is just to play it as you would do your robuki. So when you take out your flute and you do robuki, you just add the komibuki on top of it. Okay, now artistic intent of it. I've read a lot of different articles about this, and I've gotten multiple views of what the answer is. So one answer that I've heard is that it was training for samurai. So specifically samurai who were training on the shakuhachi would use this as breath control and as a type of meditative technique. Other people will say, no, that's absolutely not true. That never was the case. It's related to fire breathing in terms of yoga meditation, where there's this strong pulsing of breath, which heats up the body. You're in northern Japan, it gets very cold. It's a good technique in order to keep your body warm. And so on and so forth. So that's kind of like the art, maybe more practical intent of it. I think artistically speaking, here's one that I just noticed. And I could be totally wrong about this, but this is just... I'll preface this answer with this statement. I have no historical or documentation proof of what I'm about ready to say. It's just my experience that I'm going off to answer this question. When you play and you walk, the sound of your stepping when you play a long tone is very close to the sound of komibuki. And I think that part of it might be related to that. Again, I have no historical documentation or any evidence to prove it whatsoever. It's just my own experience of walking in the woods and playing honshirabe and playing choshi and playing all these pieces that have long tones. When you take those steps, that's what I hear. So I hear the traveling komso when I hear komibuki. All right, thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. Brian asked, does the membership have material on technique for highly chromatic playing in, for example, contemporary music involving multiple key signatures or centers? No, there isn't anything like that on there right now. And stuff like that is actually, like, there's only so much that we can do online, meaning that there becomes a point where beginner material is very good. Even like lower intermediate and starting to get into the intermediate things are possible and very helpful on online without having a teacher direct. I think that those things can be taught fairly successfully with enough material and with enough feedback through with comments and working with other people online, for example, in different groups like Shakuhachi groups and whatnot. Once you start getting into the intermediate, upper intermediate, advanced, it really just has to be one-on-one, because there's so much detail in there and there's so much to talk about that I have, like, let's say if I were to do a piece, I would have to assume a lot about the person who is watching and how much information they know. So one of my students and I have actually talked about this, that online there tends to be two different types of videos. It either tends to be super beginner or incredibly advanced. And the incredibly advanced videos comes with a presupposition that the person who is watching this video has already been playing the instrument for 5 to 10 years and have an understanding of Western classical music. They might also have an understanding of Japanese music theory. They understand modes. They understand the different keys or scales that they use. For example, the akebono verse is like hirajoshi, verse is like a miyako scale, or maybe like anything like that. They might already know that, or they understand what you mean when you say, okay, now we're going to be going into the hachigaishi, right? Those sort of things. It's best to just have a teacher that you're working with one-on-one. I honestly, for me, I wouldn't waste my viewers' time nor my time making a video that I think only one or two of the viewers that would actually understand. Not to say that there isn't more of those people that could understand and grab those concepts, but I think because it's so limited, it's not worth doing on a video, and there might be so many questions about that that you would really want to engage with the teacher and talk like measure by measure, because sometimes those pieces, for example, let's say you want to learn Air by Takemitsu, that would be a very taxing piece to make a video on, and while I would be making the video, I would be having these questions like, well, I wonder if they understand what I mean when I say this. And so if I have to dissect every single technique, both compositionally and through the flute, that's going to be very difficult. What I would just say for you, in terms of working with music that's highly chromatic and moving between one key center into another, is to start to work on playing your scales, both major, minor, and I would say up to 4 sharps and up to 4 flats. in both major and minor modes. So you would be doing so E major and C sharp minor, and when you do those two, and playing them and working as usually 2 to 2.5 octaves for each key, depending on what it may be, which key that you're actually working in, then I think you'll have a much better time with approaching that music. But as far as material that goes over that, I do not have any that's on the membership. But thank you very much for the question. I really appreciate it. There's a lot of music that the shakuhachi can play. And I think that there's music that the shakuhachi can play, but shouldn't play as well. So for example, there are really, really beautiful chromatic lines in, let's say, the works of Mingus. But really, if at some point you start to get to the point where you're just going, I mean, you're not really playing the notes as much as you're just sliding between one note to the next note. Because we don't have those keys, being able to play something like ro, tsumeri, tsu, tsu, and playing it clear is possible, but uncomfortable and kind of clumsy. Whereas in a Western flute, it would be tan, 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 very clear, and they have different fingerings for every single note, rather than a slide or a head position movement. Now, that's not to say that we can't do the music. Like I mentioned before, Takemitsu's Air is a highly chromatic work that moves from one tonal center to another. We'll have tonal center A, tonal center E, tonal center D, tonal center G. That piece works really well on shakuhachi. There are lots of jazz pieces that work very well on shakuhachi, but it really comes down to specifically what you want to learn. There's not really an answer for just like, oh, I want to play more chromatic music. Another thing you could do is start to look at Western flute etudes. If you're really interested in doing more chromatic and harmonically adventurous music, you might want to pull up maybe, let's see, intermediate flute etudes. Let's see what books come up first. Probably not that one. There's one I'm specifically thinking about, but I can't remember the name of it. All right. Actually, the Bach 24 concert studies, that would be really great. Bach is very harmonically adventurous. And you'll get very good at maneuvering through your flute, and you won't have to worry so much about playing notes that are outside the range. Another thing, too, with going to flute music is that they have a much easier time working within the third octave. So, for example, the Kohler 30 virtuosic or virtuoso etudes are awesome if you play flute, but they're very, very difficult to maintain those upper register stuff, and a lot of it's just impractical. Gensmer is really good too, specifically volume number 2, and I only know this because I didn't play Western flute, but I've used a lot of Western flute etudes to develop more of what you're talking about, being able to play highly chromatic music. So, all right, again, I want to go back and just do a quick little advertisement time. So this whole entire stream is about giving away this shakuhachi, which is a Yozan beginner flute, and it's a part of being a member. So if you want to become a member for the Renzo Flutes channel, go right below this video. You'll see my name, Renzo Flutes, and then hit the join button. There you'll be listed with 4 options: Shoden Trial, Shoden Lesson, Shoden, Chuden, and Bamboo Champion. If you join the Shoden Trial, you'll get 1 raffle ticket in winning this flute. If you do the next level up, you get 2, Chuden is 5, and Bamboo Champion is 10. So I hope that you guys sign up, and I hope that you win this flute. I hope you all win the flute. If that was possible, it would be great. And I just want to say, too, that this isn't the only flute that I plan on giving away. I do plan on giving away more Yozan flutes. I hope to continue doing it as much as I can. And it's only possible with, as people sign up. Okay, so we do have here's a member right here. So thank you so much for your membership, a certain green vegetable. I hope it's all related to VeggieTales because VeggieTales is like absolutely lit. Okay, hey Sean, first time catching a stream. Curious what your favorite Shakuhachi piece is. Man, it's like asking what your favorite child. Who is your favorite child? It's just such a difficult answer unless you only have one child. I'm gonna give two answers on this because I think that I have favorite pieces for certain situations. And I think they might be. I think they might actually surprise you. I really, as of recent, love Murasaki Reiho, the so-called EQ Zenji piece. In the Jin Yoda version, as I was talking with a friend, is the one I like. It's probably not related to Hitoyogiri at all because of its key and whatnot. But the Myoan version actually seems to be very close to the Hitoyogiri and probably what was closer to what EQ Zenji was playing and wrote if he truly did write that piece. But I love that piece and it's been growing on me a lot recently, and it really hit with me when I started to play it outside and walking with that piece. When you walk and you play that piece, it is really quite magical. So that would be my meditative out in the woods playing tunes. Definitely Murasaki Reiho. As far as a piece that I think that might be my favorite, it's really hard to say because it just changes all the time, and I get into this mood where it's like, okay, like all I want to do is just play Sanya on a 3.0, and then there's other times where then I go, I just want to play Kumoi Jishi on my 1.6, and so it jumps. But I'll say that pieces that I tend to play a lot, I tend to play Sagariha a lot, but not the full thing, just like 5 or 6 lines from it that I really enjoy. So Sagariha is one of them. I really enjoy playing Yamagoe and Daha. And let's see. Yeah, I think that those would be it. I don't think I could really choose a piece that I just love. Unless we're talking meditation pieces, then definitely Murasaki Reiho. But thank you so much for the membership, and thank you for your question. So, again, this is the flute that's giving away, and I thought I might play just a little bit of something just to so you guys can hear the quality of this flute, because it is quite something. So I'll just give a few lines of some music here, and maybe we'll do a little bit of Fukurando, and we'll do the piece Gekko Ro Teki. And feel free to continue asking your questions, and don't forget to consider joining the channel and become a member on Renzo Flutes for a chance to win said flute. So the opening of Gekko Ro Teki by Fukurando. The story actually behind that piece is kind of interesting. He said that when he actually wrote this piece, he improvised it one time through, and then he was just so satisfied with his improvisation of playing under the moonlight that he just wrote down the whole thing, and that's the piece. And then later, I suppose he added the koto parts and everything like that. But he says that a lot of the parts too are supposed to be played free and very kind of really emotionally driven. And so you get a lot of these san no u's and high E notes and also some korokoros and whatnot. And so, actually getting a little bit cold, and I bet the fan sound is also coming through on the on the live stream here as well. Okay, so there we have it. So let's see. Let's go for any more questions. All right, that's fine. No more questions, and we can just go to now hearing what this flute sounds like when you play honkyoku on it. And since I mentioned that Sagariha was one of my favorite pieces, I will play part of Sagariha on this flute. Feel free to ask any questions that you have about Shakuhachi, about the membership, and about this flute specifically. There's the first page in a line of Sagariha. Brian, thank you so much for joining the membership, and welcome to the Shoten Trial. Your name is in the Tengai. And look, I'm serious about this too. Our Tengai is ready. So the Tengai will have the names in it. And this is the one that we're going to draw out of. So it's a real Tengai from Myoanji. So we'll have all the names in there. Certain green vegetable, bravo, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. The nice thing about this flute, especially for a beginner, is that it's not a thick flute. It's only a size 5, but even though it's thin, it does pack quite a punch. Has a very good sound, very round, very warm, and easy to play in all the registers. So here's Otsu. Very, very clean, very warm, very easy to play. Kan. And then Daikon. So, I mean, you really want a great starter flute that can already hit everything at the top of the flute and everything at the bottom of the flute very well. I mean, this is a great option. And even better yet, I can't really say it's free, but it's I guess a raffle that comes along with having a service. So if you're a member of the service, then the flute is a bonus if you win. The other thing too that's nice about it as well is that the top of the here is not like, even though the flute is thin, it's not thin here on the bore, so it's still very easy to get those daimeri notes, which on a lot of those lower level flutes or beginner flutes, daimeris are extremely difficult to hit. One thing I do want to actually remind people of is that the membership, once you sign up, since you signed up for the membership, one thing I want you to be aware of is that you can actually go to my website after you become a member, and you can go to this link here, so seanheadmusic.com/membership, and there all of the videos and of what's on the channel, you can access there. So you go to that page, you click on series, and then you'll see what's free for everybody, and then what requires the YouTube membership. You can click on that, click on which one you want to be a part of. So you're Shoden, so click on the Shoden level, and then you can start going through all of those videos that are listed there. So it's organized out much better than it is organized out on YouTube. So highly recommend that current subscribers, so a certain green vegetable. I'm going to go with cucumber. I think it's a cucumber, or maybe it's a zucchini. So Mr. Zucchini, you might want to also check out the online seanheadmusic.com/membership in order to easily access all of the content. Another interesting thing too, unrelated to this, but since we're talking about the website, and I've had some questions recently where people asked, what is the Hitoyogiri course? What is that? Well, this is another thing that I'm teaming up with Nick Belando on. He's going to be the primary teacher for this. I'm just sponsoring it and joining along and hoping to get as many students for him as possible to support his shakuhachi career and support his shakuhachi life, so he can do more of the things that he wants to do. And so we're going to be doing this instrument together and teaching it. So I come from a background of learning shomyo and liturgical Buddhist music from the Shingon lineage. So there's a lot of things that are very similar to shakuhachi and shomyo, and I think that we both think that the kind of missing link between shomyo and shakuhachi is the Hitoyogiri. Many of its tunes being very, very beautiful and very vocal-like, and even many of the techniques are found within the shomyo music, this liturgical Buddhist music. So this will be something that's coming up very soon as well. So keep your eyes and ears peeled on both the YouTube and website for things to come up. We are making new ones as well for beginners to learn this beautiful instrument and to grow the shakuhachi's, make vernacular. Okay, so we have Dui. Trin, thanks for introducing the shakuhachi to me. I really appreciate your videos and work. Well, I really appreciate that you're here, and I'm glad that everything is, I'm glad that you started playing shakuhachi. It's just the more people that play shakuhachi, the better. And people don't have to, just come to me. There are so many. Kwa. Sorry about that. So kwa. So there are many people online who are making wonderful content. There's a lot of great teachers out there, so be sure to watch their content as well, and to dive into the vast vernacular of shakuhachi. There is so many different ways to approach this instrument, and when someone plays, you really can't hide behind the instrument, especially if you play well. There is no hiding behind the instrument. That person's character, that person's personality, that person's essence is what goes into the flute and expounds outward, and then we get to see that person and their essence, their human nature, the love, the passion that they have for this instrument, the things that worry them in life, all those things, the things that give them joy in life, all those things come out through the flute, and we get to experience that with them. That's part of the power of music. This language that has a syntax that doesn't speak outside of itself. And so there's this mystery on why it affects us so much. But I think it's that the person's individual essence gets shared with others. And I don't know of any other way of doing that besides like, marriage and things like this. Family relations and whatnot. So music and shakuhachi specifically is incredibly powerful and incredibly spiritual, and so I highly recommend, if you're watching this and you don't play shakuhachi or you don't play an instrument, play an instrument. Music is such a blessing and such a gift that we have in this life, and we should experience it to its fullest. Okay. All right, so I have about another 20 minutes, so if we have some more questions related to anything shakuhachi, the membership, the flute giveaway, if you guys want to hear another piece on this flute or some of the other techniques that you find difficult or something like that, happy to help out with any of those things. I'm going to go to Murasaki Deiho now, because that was the piece that I said that I really enjoy playing on hikes. and I usually play portions of it. Sometimes, like with pieces too, I don't always play the full thing when I'm out. Sometimes I'll just play little portions of a piece, and I'll put those on repeat. So maybe like I'll play Kyore, but I'm only gonna play the first two lines of Kyore, and then I repeat it again and again and again as I walk. All right, so here's just a little bit of Murasaki Reho on this 1.8. And of course, we're inside, so it's a much different feeling than what you would get if you were walking outside. And one of the things I absolutely love about playing outside, and especially walking outside, is that you, especially in heat right now, it's 34 Celsius outside, which I think is like upper 90s Celsius to Fahrenheit. 93, so lower 90s, with a humidity of about 70 to 80%. So when you're walking around in that, you get tired and winded very easily. So you take more time between one phrase and the next phrase. And then what you start to realize is that the melody that you play is a call and response to the nature that's around you. So right now there's a lot of cicadas, and they're very loud. And sometimes there's places where the cicadas are so loud it's actually deafening. Like you'll walk out of that area and your ears are ringing because it's so loud. So then you start to play that way though. You start to play, like, let's say if I was in that area, I'd probably do something like, and get more of that airiness and that roughness to the sound, to mimic the things that are around me. And sometimes I don't do it on purpose, but subconsciously. That's why I said I might play it like that. I might do something even different on that as well. I might do clear but bright and open. But then the main thing is as I'm walking, I have time in between the phrases where I'm catching my breath, and sometimes I take 2 breaths instead of 1, and then I'm listening to what's happening around me, and it's infiltrating my melody. It's infiltrating my sound. It's infiltrating my interpretation of the piece. And it's almost, in a sense, it's almost like the nature around me is taking over nature take the wheel, as they might say. All right, couple things here from Kwa. I currently have a bamboo shakuhachi straight flute made by an elderly Australian man and the resin shakuhachi U. Do you have any advice on where and how to obtain a more authentic shakuhachi? Well, if you sign up for the membership, maybe you'll win this one, and then I'll send it off to you. Other than that, I would honestly just recommend Yozan's flutes. I think that his stuff is just awesome, especially for the price. You can also, if you want mainly Jinashi stuff, I'd recommend Ikegami Kenji, or I would recommend my friend Nick Belando at Hon On Shakuhachi, and he has also really good Jinashi shakuhachis. I really like his stuff. His flutes color. I'm speaking of Nick's. Nick's flutes colors are very, very attractive, and I would almost say they're intoxicating. He had played a 2.0 that he made for one of my students, and I didn't know that it was for one of my students, and he was playing it, and I was like, yeah, I want that. And he's like, oh, well, someone already bought it. I'm like, darn, that one was it's a great flute. So I recommend on the Jinashi end either Nick Belando or Kenji Ikegami. Amazing healing notes. Thank you very much. Do you notice a nature responding to your flute? I don't know necessarily that I would say the nature is responding to my flute. Sometimes you'll get like different bird calls and certain things that go like, yeah, that looks like there's some responding, some call and response. I would say that if anything, it's more like collaboration, right? Collaboration of the two. I don't think that one necessarily takes the lead unless it's very overpowering, like the story of the cicadas, right? The cicadas thing, that would be, a sense where I think it's very overpowering. I don't know of a sense where I was so overpowering that nature came to my will. I don't think that that's ever happened. So if it does, well, first off, then I will be taking a video of that because otherwise no one will believe me. And also, too, I don't think it will happen because, nature is, it's natural, right? We as people are so unnatural in many ways. We get, as Watazumi would say, and many, I think, Buddhists would say as well, is that we get delusional over many things, right? We overthink whatever it may be, so, so. All right, so. Yeah, we can never outdo nature. That's very true. Would you say Jinashi flutes are harder to play than Giardi flutes? Yes, they are harder to play. They're just more fickle, right? They're going to be, there might be some more likely to have a wolf tone, which is a note that does not necessarily sound all the way. So, for example, so here's the Jinashi flute that I made, right? There's a wolf on Ro sometimes. That sound, right? That's a wolf. And I'm trying to make it right now, but normally if I just play, now it's gone, right? So, but things like that can happen on Jinashi flutes a lot more commonly, which make them not the ideal if you're going to do a broad range of music. So if you want to play, contemporary classical music, and you want to play folk music, and you want to play sangkyoku, and you want to do this, that, and the other, I personally would just recommend the Giardi flute because of the reliability of it. You do lose tone colors, like the variety of like ro, tsu, de, chi, di. Each note, ro, tsu, de, chi, di, all have their individual sound. The more that you have Giardi caked on the inside of the flute, the more that the flute becomes balanced, and you lose those distinctions. So, ro and tsu are very, very different on a Jinashi flute. Very quiet, and you almost hear ro, tsu. Whereas on the Giardi flute, it becomes a lot more balanced. So, right, and I'm just playing straight. Oh, that's another point too. Here, right? This, like that tsu is much lower on the Jinashi, right? Because of just the pitch and stuff. So there will be a lot more adjusting that you need to do on the Jinashi flutes. All right. Next question, and I think that this will be one of the last ones that I take, but go ahead and send some in if there's something really interesting. Okay, so Kwa says, I'm going to Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto end of this September. Are there places you can recommend shakuhachi and philosophy related? Where do you reside? I'm not trying to stalk you, just curious. Look at all these people trying to stalk me. Now, I live in Nara, so Nara Prefecture. It's a huge prefecture, so I'm not giving away too much information there. Um, yeah, there's a lot of things that I would recommend. As far as like heavy culturally related things, I think you'd have a lot better bet in Kyoto, and in some extent there will be a lot of things that you can do in Osaka. Tokyo, I don't think people realize how big Tokyo is. Like there is Tokyo the city, and then there is Tokyo like everything, like there's Shibuya that goes all the way even out to Hachioji, and into other like neighboring areas. And Hachioji to Tokyo, like that's an hour and a half train ride. So I think that's still considered Tokyo-ku, where so it's quite a large area. I would recommend that to get outside of the city of Tokyo and go more north towards Saitama, and also go more farther east, west of Tokyo. I mentioned Hachioji. There's a very famous story of Otori Ippei runs into a komuso, and Otori Ippei was he was a chronological. He did stories, and he made chronologies of events that happened. And so Hachioji is a very old city, and it had very famous for ramen, by the way. So Hachioji ramen, piece de resistance. There's a story though where he meets a komuso, and that event happens in Hachioji. So sometimes you can go to places like that and kind of go around and say, oh, these are possibly where the footsteps of komuso were, and some things like that. In terms of just overall Shakuhachi philosophy related stuff and just finding the best stuff, Nara is your place to go. And I don't say that just because I live here. I say that just because it's the truth. If you go to Hold Yuji and you can see Shotoku Taishi's flutes if they have them on display. You can go to Shosoin, and if they have them on display, you can see some of the first shakuhachi that came over to Japan from China through the Korean peninsula. There's a lot of shakuhachi schools here. There are a lot of people who are teaching Tozan Ryu, Chikuho Ryu, and there's a lot of events that happen. Osaka is just so close by, so it's. I mean, I think at Kansai you'll have better luck, but maybe there might be some stuff with that we can talk about that. Have you had any interactions with monks of emptiness? Those guys, technically, the real komuso are no longer around. There is a group of people who do a sort of. I don't want to call it cosplay because it's much more than that. They take it very seriously. But it isn't the komuso life. They're not living and working as a shakuhachi mendicant, traveling from one area to another, living off donations alone. So those like true komusos are no longer around. So I haven't. No one's met one in like over 100 years. Lucien says, haven't practiced shakuhachi seriously in over 10 years. Took lessons for 1 year. Was my first woodwind instrument. Hardest piece to play was Kudokami. What's your advice on starting up again? Okay, Kudokami, let me just tell you this. This will be the last question I take for tonight, but thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And just one more plug on the channel here. Right below the video, you'll see my name, Renzo Flutes, and right next to that is the join button. If you want to have a chance to win this flute, join the Renzo Flutes membership and get access to hundreds of teaching videos. I don't know, maybe it's not hundreds. Lots of teaching videos, though. I definitely think over 100. Somewhere around like maybe 120 teaching videos, as well as concerts and so on and so forth. There are different levels, which gives you access to more material, and the higher levels you go up, the more chance you have to win. It goes Shoden Trial, 1 ticket, Shoden Lesson Series, 2 tickets, Chuden Lesson Series, 5 tickets, and Bamboo Champion, 10 tickets. So you get full hands, jazz hands. Okay, so getting back up and playing. So for example, Kudokami is famous for being just very difficult for beginners because of a couple things. One, it's extremely slow. I think the metronome mark is like 35 or 40. It's just, people are not used to doing that at all. Thank you very much, Kwa, for joining the Shoden Trial membership. Really happy to have you here. The second thing is it's long. And the third thing is that there's an entire historical background of poetry that goes along with it. that make it there puts a barrier between this. Now, there is somebody who's writing quite a we'll call it a tome. It is a tome about Sangkyoku, and so I'm actually looking forward for that to be released. So when that is released, I think I'm going to do a read through of it and just kind of do a video about it, and hopefully getting people to buy it. Sangkyoku is not an area that I'm extremely well versed in. I know how to play it, and that's about the extent of it. The thing is that with Shakuhachi and starting back up is always just go back to the fundamentals. Folk songs, children's songs, really basic stuff. Don't try to push it hard. Focus on becoming friendly with your instrument and friendly with your sound and intimate with it, so you become more confident. Then you can go to places in like the difficult Sangkyoku music, which I wouldn't call Kurokami difficult Sangkyoku music, but it's difficult for the beginner first approaching Sangkyoku, and I think that's the best way to put it, because there's pieces out there like Yae Goromo, and if you don't know the piece Yae Goromo, it's fast and it's like 20 minutes long, and it just keeps going and going and going. Another piece is Zangetsu. Zangetsu is a very difficult Sangkyoku piece as well. So thank you so much. So for Lucien, I hope that you join the membership, where I do go over Kurokami and many other things, as well as coming back into Shakuhachi. I think that the Shoden series would be great because it just goes from absolute zero, and you can pick up things that you might have forgotten that you don't remember how to do. So with that, I'm going to leave the stream now. Thank you guys all so much. Thank you for the two new members, both Kwa and Brian. Really happy to have you on board, and look forward to next week when we give away this flute on July 31st.